Mal O'Hara, Green Party leader, thank you very much for speaking to Belfast Live. Firstly, to look at the Assembly election results last year, the Green Party lost both of its Assembly seats in the election last May, including former leader Claire Bailey's seat in South Belfast. Have you evaluated since then what went wrong for the Greens?
Yeah, Brendan, I think we were disappointed obviously to lose our two seats. We were in that election quite hopeful. People were talking about the cost of living crisis, about failing public services, and we believed that our message was resonating. But I think in the final week things tightened and it went back to a typical Northern Ireland election where people voted on constitutional issues, the appeal of a nationalist First Minister, or addressing the protocol on the unionist side. And that squeezed us ultimately, and we lost our two seats. But I think that was an election of a particular point in time. We've seen the polls this week which suggest that our vote is back up again. I think our message of a greener, cleaner, fairer Northern Ireland is beginning to resonate with people, and we hope to see a positive response to that in the council election on the 18th of May.
Now, the one party that you haven't mentioned is the Alliance Party, which was the party to which the Green Party lost both of its seats. So what are you going to do to win back support that has drifted towards the Alliance Party?
Well, I think that I have a lot of respect for people in Alliance, and I think Naomi Long's a fantastic leader, but I think as a party we're different, and I think we need to clearly articulate our differences from them. I think if you look at Alliance, they voted against the trade union laws. Straight after the Assembly election they were calling for the suspension of bus lanes, and also some of their elected members were touring private healthcare facilities which can undermine the NHS and health and social care in Northern Ireland. So I think we need to clearly articulate those differences, that we're not just Alliance with a greener message, but we're actually on the left or centre left, and Alliance aren't, and I think that's a clear difference to articulate between us and them.
So where do you think the Alliance Party sits in terms of left or right?
I think they're a centre-right party, and I think historically if you look at their manifestos that would evidence that. Now I would admit that they're socially liberal and they've moved on some of those issues, but I think their record stands up that particularly on the vote on equal marriage it's marginally over 50%, where ours was always 100% in support. So I think there are clear differences between ourselves and Alliance.
Now, you're facing a tough battle yourself in the Castle area of North Belfast in the upcoming council elections. Is there the prospect that we will see two Green Party leaders lose their seats in the space of a year?
I don't think so, Brendan. I think my record in North Belfast and in Castle in particular can stand on its own merit. The last time I took the 5th seat out of 6, lots of people discounted me, didn't think I had a chance, and I broke through and we secured that seat, and I would like to build on that success. Grand plans for North Belfast. I think unfortunately the COVID pandemic waylaid them for lots of us, but I used my background in community development and working in the community. We set up a soup kitchen, and in the first 3 months of the COVID pandemic we delivered 17,000 meals to vulnerable people. We built that out of the ground from nothing based on volunteers and people willing to help, and that's the kind of thing that I want to capitalise on and build on. I think I can point to delivery in parts of North Belfast, helping local residents, working with community groups, community organisations, helping to regenerate parts of the city, and I think people will recognise that and endorse me on the 18th of May.
Now, I suppose your most high-profile member for many years was your former party leader, Claire Bailey. Is she going to be on the ticket for the local government elections in May?
No, and we want to thank Claire for everything she's done for the party. She's been a stalwart. I'm in the party in part because of Claire bringing me in, but she's moved on. She's now in employment, and she stepped back from the party. But we have a whole generation of new activists coming through.
Now, turning to some issues in the local government elections. Now, you have 4 councillors in Belfast City Council, and recently the Green Party successfully proposed a motion to create a safe injection house for drug users in the city. Why was this important for the Green Party?
Well, I think it sits in our record of social justice. We've been ahead of the curve on lots of issues that others eventually caught up on us, whether it was marriage, whether it was abortion, and of course for decades on the environment and biodiversity crisis. But Belfast needs an overdose prevention centre. Anybody who's been in Belfast will see drug debris lying about the streets, but also vulnerable people in our city centre. From 2017 to 2021, we've had almost 350 deaths in Belfast, and an overdose prevention centre can help prevent those deaths. It will clean up the city and it will speak to social justice by saving lives. Now, we know it's going to be a long battle. We're looking at an exemption from the Misuse of Drugs Act. We're trying to bring together stakeholders and key partners to help drive that forward. And I think what will happen eventually is, whether we have a new incoming Labour government, the Misuse of Drugs Act will be repealed or amended, or what will happen is one city in the UK will open an overdose prevention centre and others will follow. I want Belfast to be at the forefront of it, because we're losing some of the most vulnerable people in our city, and it's simply not good enough that we haven't acted before now.
The recent census results suggest that there's no end really to the car culture in Northern Ireland, with under 11% saying they walk, cycle or get a bus or train to work. As we know, TransLink is putting up its fares, and in Belfast, where you have 4 councillors, the council hasn't increased its off-street parking charges since 2015. So what have the Greens been doing?
Yeah, so we've been doing a number of key things at City Council, and I think it's important to differentiate here about where the powers lie in relation to transport and active travel. That lies with the Department for Infrastructure. Now, we brought a motion last year calling for those powers to be devolved, and unfortunately Sinn Féin and the DUP voted against it. It's a ridiculous anomaly that Belfast doesn't control local transport powers. Any other city our size on this island or in Britain would control those powers and be able to set decisions about public transport infrastructure. So that's one challenge. What we have done is we've expanded the Belfast Bike Scheme, because we have control and powers over that, including looking at discounted access for young people, so we can shift attitudes. Instead of turning 17 and getting a new car, you get on your free Belfast bike and you use public transport as much as possible. I think the wider issue speaks to an executive who have failed to affect modal shift, and what essentially that is meaning people will use their private car less and they'll use walking, cycling, trains and buses. And I think the decisions by the Department for Infrastructure to increase fares on public transport, to get rid of the early morning saver discount scheme for people who might commute into Belfast, is completely counterintuitive to a climate and biodiversity crisis.
Okay, you've mentioned about the Department of Infrastructure basically holding a lot of the power in this area where you want to see changes, but in the areas where the council does have control, such as off-street car parking, the council hasn't moved to try and increase its fares. Would Green Party support the increase of off-street car parking charges?
Well, we haven't specifically called for that, but I actually did bring a piece of work forward which is about reviewing the car parking strategy. That was originally agreed in 2018 before we were elected to council, and now that the local development plan for Belfast is moving to sign off, that'll be an opportunity to review the parking strategy. We want to build communities, not car parks. Belfast has far too many car parks, when what we need is a living city centre population, mixed communities, private housing, social housing, affordable housing, which can have people living in the city centre. They don't need cars, they have all the services and amenities that they need, and that creates a vibrant and regenerated city core.
Just to look at some issues outside of Northern Ireland, in the Republic of Ireland, where the Green Party is in a coalition with Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael, the Green Party leader Eamon Ryan recently travelled to Hong Kong and to China as part of St Patrick's Day engagements. What do you think about the Green Party leader racking up so many air miles?
Well, I'm the Green Party leader in Northern Ireland, and I can only be accountable for the Green Party and our elected representatives and members in Northern Ireland. So I'm focusing my priority energy on those. We're facing really important elections. But I think there's a difficult détente for ministers who have to go around the world and sell ideas or learn from experiences, and that's what they've had to do. But I'm focused on the Green Party in Northern Ireland.
And also in the coalition in the Republic of Ireland, where the Green Party is part of that coalition, the government is putting forward proposals in relation to removing the eviction ban.
What would your view on that be? Would you be supporting the government's plans on this, or what do you think?
Well, I can only be accountable for the Green Party in Northern Ireland, and I would talk to our work on these issues. So we brought a motion. Belfast City Council now supports rent caps. Unfortunately, at that time we did have an assembly, but the minister chose not to bring in rent caps when she did some regulation of the private rented sector. We want to see that in Northern Ireland. We believe in rent caps. We believe in stronger regulation around the private rented sector. We want to see social homes built en masse. We want to see retrofitting in our current stock, which will create jobs and apprenticeships and hope for other people. In terms of the eviction moratorium, I think that's, I voted against the programme for government. I had concerns about going into government with two ostensibly centre-right parties, but that's a decision for the Green Party in Ireland, and I'll be focusing on the Green Party in Northern Ireland.